Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of season 3 of Contact Lost podcast, the Polish podcast about Warhammer 40k, where we discuss the competitive scene both in Poland and abroad. And oh my god, we didn't record an episode for 2 weeks now, which I am very sorry about, but life got in the way, family got in the way, and our TTS league got in the way. So I really didn't find the time to record an episode. With me today, I have Joker, who I think was in the very same spot. Hi, dude.
Hello.
And our guest, our now I can say staple, our regular Pumba.
Hello, everybody.
Right, guys. So as I said, plenty of stuff happened privately. Plenty of stuff also happened sort of hobby-wise. So let's start with you two, maybe. What have you been doing? What have you been up to in those 2 weeks when we didn't meet, didn't talk? What happened, Joker?
Well, similarly, TTS League, the event in Warsaw, DMG, or if anyone wants to hear the Polish name, Duże Męskie Granie. What else? Life, I guess, a bit, maybe. Not sure. I mean, 2 weeks is both a lot and little time. So I don't know, my memory's not serving me well. So maybe I'll just stop here.
So did you do any hobbying in that time?
Unfortunately, not much. I did strip paint off some 10 grotesques, which I hope to paint for the next tournament. Or at least splash some paint on it. But I can't think of anything else apart from that.
All right, okay, that's sufficient. Pumba, how about you?
Well, I've been doing some hobbying stuff. After DMG, the next week I've been to Nottingham GT as a judge again.
Oh, that's some proper hobbying.
That's proper hobbying, right? So yeah, that happened, and also I've been finally taking care of my Thousand Suns army to stop constantly borrowing models from my local group, from my local friend who has been generous enough to donate his Thousand Suns army for me to play in the recent tournaments. So I hopefully can manage to do that, so I don't need to bother him so much. So yeah, it's been going great actually. And I've got a pretty nice, handy scheme that I can replicate quickly. So I'm looking forward to actually finishing and playing with my old models.
That's cool. That's cool. So nothing changed, right? You're like 3 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago when we had you on in our episode, you were playing Thousand Suns. A month later, you're still playing Thousand Suns.
I am still playing Thousand Suns, but now I'm crying way more about it. Because of the new chapter approved.
All right. Yeah, I heard. But we will get to that. That's one of the topics of the episode. So if anyone is interested, I also did some hobbying, and that's actually not wolves. I've picked up a new army myself, and I thought that I would be able to collect and paint Tyranids, not the Crusher Stampede, just normal Tyranids. And today I painted my first test model, and it came out atrocious. So I thought that I have a scheme that is easy to do. Turned out the colors that I picked are not exactly what I want, and it turns out that the GW contrast that is called Nazdreg yellow is actually yellow, which is horrible. Whoa. Yeah, so I was hoping
How
that
come?
What did you expect it to be?
I thought it was going to be something like watered down Agrax Earthshade, but it turned out it's actually freaking yellow, like vibrant yellow with a darkish sort of like a mixture of a yellow and Agrax, but it's totally not what I wanted.
I am literally looking at the paint right now on Google Images. It's very yellow.
It is. So it's I went to the shop and I thought, okay, I need a shade to do that thing that I want to do, and maybe I'll take a shortcut and I'll not use Agrax watered down or something. I'll just use a contrast. It's going to do me wonders. And the opposite happened. It looks so shit. You just need to clean or strip the model and paint it again. I'm actually happy I started with a Gene Stealer and not with a Hive Tyrant because I would cry my eyes out. Anyway, let's get on. We don't have a strict agenda, but it's still a packed agenda. So, Pumba, you mentioned DMG, and Joker, you also mentioned DMG. The two of you were actually there. You got to experience the action, play the best players in Poland. As I mentioned to Adam Camilleri when he was preparing to mention this episode in his show, it was a Shark Tank of an event with the top players. I think like 8 players from the top 10 from last season were there, and plenty of others who are aspiring to the national team and so on and so on. So, can you give me your short account of what the tournament was about? Pumba, maybe we can start with you.
Well, that was the big like test for everything I thought about Thousand Suns as an army, because of course I brought them, and that was also a test of my Cult of Mutation plus Cult of Duplicity list, which like is a bit techy, or was a bit techy. RIP, by the way.
Yes.
So yeah, that was basically my answer to the Polish meta that we had going on, and it proved. I mean, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. I knew it would still struggle against Drukhari. I knew it still had a pretty bad matchup against Crusher Stampede, or really any Tyranids with plenty of Hive Guards. And I knew it can struggle with Chaos Knights, which were prevalent over there. But like the Cult of Mutation really gave me a fighting chance against those armies. And I was hoping that I can, with my skill and with proper play, I can just pull off slight wins, for example, or draws. I managed to dodge every Drukhari, which was amazing. I managed to dodge Tyranids. If it's actually good for me, that like really depends, because I'm gonna be like super honest. I think that there was only really like super competitive Tyranids player in that event, which was Vladi, who won actually. So dodging him was a big blessing. But and I've run into single Chaos Knights list of my friend from Krakow, which I managed to draw. I came 6th, I believe, or 7th in the event itself, with 3 wins and 2 draws. So
no losses. Nice one.
Exactly. Which is a very like considering I'm testing Thousand Suns primarily as a team tournament army, I think they proved themselves exceptionally well in that category. Like I knew I was not going for top 3 with that particular army. I don't think it can manage that currently in the meta, but it did all the things they were supposed to. So I was very pleased with that.
All right, Joker, how about you?
Well, I stole Pumba's list and made it worse.
As you do.
Yep. And well, I have similar feelings about it. Unfortunately, I lost my last game against the same Chaos Knights player that Pumba's just mentioned. So I ended up 19th at the end of the day, or the end of the tournament. But it was an amazing experience overall. I think we've never had a singles tournament that had that many players and that many of the really top players in one place. So it was really great to be a part of it.
Yeah, and after day 1, you were looking really good, as far as I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Really, I was in the top 10 going into the last round, so that would have been amazing. But obviously, I played crap and I lost.
I mean, I saw your table that you've played on the round against your Chaos Knights, and with that missions with that table, I don't know if I could have pulled a draw over there. I'm gonna be fucking honest. That was pretty rough table. By the way, one of the great things about DMG is the whole event was played exclusively on like proper WTC maps and tables. So that was a great chance for us, for all the top players especially, to actually test the new layouts of the WTC tables, which are pretty controversial currently. Like just scrolling through the internet, you can see a lot of different opinions about them. Of course, they were not designed for single tournaments. We know that, and we accept that fact, just as a community, I think. But yeah, that was a great opportunity to test them, and I think they really proved to be way better than we expected. Actually, I think they really they proved to be both. There are some like super dense tables, some less dense tables. You can still easily find shooting lines with many armies. So I think they like really serve their purpose well.
Yeah, to be honest, I think at least the players who are active on TTS, which I count myself in that group right now as well, I think the majority of those people are used to that sort of terrain anyway, because all the maps are available on TTS, and our leagues also play on those maps, on those tables, and so on. So really, a lot of people are getting practice even outside of official live tournaments. So it's not so bad, I think. Anyway, so that was DMG. It was won by Vladi with his Crusher Stampede. Second was Leshu with Grey Knights. And
That's
third
correct.
was Tiff was with his Drukhari, right?
Correct.
So Vladi won undisputedly with his Stampede. What can you tell me about that army of renown, about his list? What do you think, Pumba?
I think it's broken, and I don't really think it's a hot take anymore. I think it's a proper state of the game, which everybody is painfully aware of at the moment. We've seen LVO, which we will dive deeper into in a second. But yeah, Crusher Stampede is really fucking good, like incredibly good, incredibly oppressive. I don't think it's the be all and end all. I think it can see counterplay, but I don't think it was still relatively new back then, because the event happened like what now, 3 or basically 3 weeks ago, right?
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, so back then I don't think the meta particularly targeted that list, or has actually figured out a way to counter that list. Now I think like we might see some more counterplay, especially with the Tau coming out, but still it proves to be very good in during DMG, and I've been to Nottingham like the week after that, and I've seen a lot of fucking stampedes in there, like a lot of stampedes crushing.
Yeah, I think Malik brought that as well, right?
Exactly, and he
took
second
it to
place.
LVO.
That is correct. His mates from Dice Down, which like Alex Petford and David Gaylard, who came 5th in LVO, also played that exact list. And they've played with Harridan in the list. But yeah, Harridan is like replaceable. I don't think it's a super star unit, as some might say, and a Crusher Stampede. But I think the general idea and the gist of the list is that it's very good, incredibly good, absolutely top of the meta.
If you bite into it, is it the actual rules that make it so strong, or is it the Forge World units that do absolute batshit crazy stuff, like the Macaron, for example, that ignores terrain and can just run in a straight line and basically charge you turn 1, or is it that the rules, the damage reduction and so on are actually so it's such a bad mix that it makes it difficult to play against it? Joker, what do you think?
It's a mix of those things. I mean, you can't forget about shooting twice Hive Guard that just get a ridiculous amount of buffs from the Leviathan supplement. Then obviously, yeah, you've got that flexibility in all those monsters that can outright, will just pick a target and kill a unit, right? Like the Demicaran or a Hive Tyrant that ignores invuln saves or whatever it does. And they can get anywhere because even if they don't have enough movement, the Swarm Lord can push them and they can make it. So it's really all that. It's just well, they have a lot of tools and the data sheets to make them work. And I'm really curious what the codex that was announced in a way yesterday is going to make of it. How's that going to change?
Do you think that shoot twice is going to stay, Pumba?
I think it's going away. By the way, I will just add to what Joker said. The Demicaran plus Hiveguard list was actually already a thing, right? It was played basically a year ago. Vladdy played that list actually during our TTS scrims, our scrims against other ETC teams, stuff like this. So it was actually already around. It was around as like at least half a year ago, basically. It was still playing and doing good results, but it really fell off because it turned out that with all the Adamic and all their armies having such a incredible amounts of good quality anti-tank shooting, that the monsters proved themselves not survivable enough. But what Crusher Stampede did is just put incredible amounts of very good rolls on top of these models. Like Demicaran is you could say it's a 1.5 point data sheet. It's not a codex, like super old codex data sheet. It's a Imperial Armor Forge World data sheet.
Yeah.
So it was, when it actually came out, it was very it was already played with because of how good the datasheet is. But now the Crusher Stampede just puts such a ton of oppressive rules on top of these models.
It turns it up to 11.
I mean, 4+ infants, 5+ infants army-wide, -1 damage. You can just, there's just incredible amounts of just extra top quality rules.
Control that was missing.
That was
the big guy.
Basically everything. Like, I'm not kidding. Basically everything. Like mortal wound output, survivability. They have everything. I'm not even over estimating.
Yeah, it made me laugh because
yeah.
we did an episode on mechanics and like which mechanics we would like to go away, and then they created an army that had all of them.
kind of true, right? Kind of true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in a camp that says definitely the rule stacking, both with the Leviathan supplement and the Army of Renown on top of that created that situation more than the datasheets of Demicaran. And like you wouldn't tell me that Harpies is an oppressive datasheet.
Yep.
But suddenly, oh boy, is it good, right? So yeah, exactly.
Suddenly
I'm in a
out of
camp
stock.
that says definitely the rule stacking more than the models themselves.
Well,
I think you're right. So yeah, those units or lists, they already could hold their own in a way, and then they got buffed twice. So yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, but on the other hand, I'm happy for the Tyranids players who had some dusty models on their shelves, and the Harpy was probably the dustiest of them, and now it sees some play. So that's good. The rest, I'm keen to see what the Codex does, because I think as soon as the Codex drops, this Army of Renown will either stop working or will be turned upside down. So we have to wait and see, I guess.
You're only saying that because you've got a primed Hive Tyrant on your desk.
I do, and I have a whole army lined up waiting for me. So yeah, that's coincidence. No, but actually, I find more fun in playing the small nids, the fast nids, rather than the big ones. But again, we'll see. We'll see what the Codex does. But anyway, you mentioned because I don't want to delve on DMG for too much. You've mentioned that the Tau release may actually be the heyday of, not the heyday, sorry, the end of days for the Stampede. So what is going on with Tau?
I'm gonna be like super honest. I have not actually read the full codex myself. I don't think like I will suddenly become a Tau player, as 70% of 40k population is like turned out to be. So all of my takes will be more hot takes more than anything, and things I've gathered from following the Tau Discord channels and such, and like actually list building from people that actually want to play the faction. But yeah, it seems really strong, especially in the shooting department, like hardcore shooting department. Who knew Tau would shoot well, right? But yeah, that's the thing. So from things that I'm seeing, broadsides especially look amazing. Crude seem incredible with their new buffs, their new HQ, and like billion new stratagems and rules they can use themselves. There's some serious power in that faction, I believe. It will definitely see play. How good it is, I have no way of telling. How good exactly, of course, but especially like looking at their damage profiles and their shooting profiles with things like broadsides, I think it might be very good and like proper counter to a Crusher Stampede list, because just the weight of good quality shots that is coming out of the potential Tau list might be very much enough to kill even the toughest fucking monsters of Tyranids. Like, I cannot see a Dimakeron or a Harpy surviving the level of shooting that Tau can currently put on the table. Like the pure weight of shooting.
Yeah, and I think they are going to be mobile at that. So maybe, I hope that gone are the days when Tau is just going to, castle up and wait for you to come so they can shoot you off the table. Instead, hopefully they're going to be more active and interactive on the playing grounds. Joker, did you have a chance to look at the book or any leaks at least about Tau?
No, also no, to be honest. I mean, I think everyone's been seeing and crying about a new mechanic that's been introduced, so ignoring invuln saves, and I've commented on that in the episode that we did about those game mechanics. I don't like it, to say the least, but I haven't seen much else, to be honest. I'm more in anticipation, waiting for the Elder Codex and how it's going to define how we are not going to enjoy the game.
So yeah, let's use that as a segue to that, because GW has been going out of their skin to provide us with topics to talk about, and suddenly the release schedule seems to have again put on the top gear, so to say. So Eldar have been announced. Eldritch Omens, I think, is the box that they are coming out in with Chaos. New codex is on the way. Leaks are now reaching us every single day. So Joker, I'll stick to you for a moment. What are you the most excited about when you see those leaks?
Well, I don't know if I'm excited about them, but yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see the Miracle Dice mechanic return in a way, because that's what the faction rule is apparently going to be. But we'll see how exactly is it phrased when it comes out. And it's hard to say. I mean, it's going to be a lot of factions in one book, totally packed. Like it's been mentioned on the community article that it's all the Craft World units, all the Harlequins are now baked in, and we'll see how Inari really works with all of that. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how this cross-faction play goes into that one faction, if you will.
Yeah, totally. Are you getting the box?
I am getting the box.
Not surprised. All right, Pumba, your take. You've probably seen the leaks and so on. Again, is there anything that you're excited about, or is there anything that you're particularly dreading?
I am very excited about the Eldar release. I have like a whole new shelf ready to put my models on after they come out, and they will look beautiful, by the way, on it after they get absolutely demolished by the new Eldar, as is the custom in every edition of 40k ever. So yes, I think my 1000 Suns will be an incredible addition for my shelf after they get absolutely destroyed by them. That will be exciting times, because an Elder domination in 9th edition 40k has never happened before, and not for a year at that.
Yep.
I am also very excited about Tau players preparing and painting their armies just for them to be absolutely wrecked in another 2 weeks by Elder, which is gonna be very funny to me, and I will like cherish all the tears that will be spilled.
All right, but it you know, if you think about it, it's going to be a very interesting year. I mean, we only have January, and so many releases have been announced. It's definitely going to be a tough nut to crack for teams going to WTC, and a lot of playtesting will need to be put in place to choose the top 8. It's going to be interesting to see if Tau makes it. Eldari, I can bet my money on it right now that Eldari are going to make it. Question is in what shape and form, because from what I hear, I think it was mentioned in the article today that you will be able to mix and match Eldari or Asuriani, with Drukhari and with Harlequins without them losing their special rules or something like that.
No,
So,
that was just, I will just quickly correct it because it's important. It's just Harlequins. Harlequins will be able to soup into any Drukhari and Eldari as a patrol. A single patrol will not break any army-specific rules.
Okay.
Exactly. But
All
that's
right.
just Harlequins.
But it's still quite powerful, and it's still
very powerful. Yes,
yeah.
potentially.
Which at the same time might mean, I mean, okay, if they are going to get the same codex, so Asuriani, Harlequins, and Inari are going to be one codex, right?
Yeah.
So effectively, if you go and mix Drukhari and Harlequins, you're losing access to Asuriani, right? For a team competition, I mean.
We'll see.
Probably.
Oh.
That's actually up in the air currently. There were actually some talks in like WTC channels about what that means for actual like. As is the customs, basically every codex is its own army, but it's codex by codex basis, and it's the release of new Harlequins mixed with Craft Wars and Inari means that they actually become one faction. WTC team tournament wise is still up in the air. I'm not 100% sure. There are some talks that the book is very clearly separated into sections, as like this is basically at the end of Codex Craft Worlds and the start of Codex Harlequins, which may mean that even though they are not separate book, they are basically separate codexes within one release. But until we get the book and some official rulings comes out, we don't know, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, it's definitely going to be to cause a stir, let's say. And I'm keen to see, for example, the WTC ruling on that one. All right. I think we managed to blitz through the latest releases, at least, or previews from GW. So now about something
if can I add something else? I think by design, by the way, in my opinion at least, I think this is one of the most turmoil heavy times that the 9th edition has ever experienced. And I think it's by design, as I said. Like there's new season coming out, literally season, as they are called. So we can expect, we have already got the chapter approved with new points and new very comprehensive changes to the way you build your armies. You've had Genestealer cults, which are really a new codex, same as Custodes. They have not been like super explored yet. You've got Tau on the way. You've got your Eldar on the way. You've got the potential early February balance data slate again. It's a lot.
And early February could mean 25th of February.
Of course,
yeah.
As we know, like people, what GW writes on their website, especially the community website, is not often equal to reality, but that's what we get, and that's we are blessed with. But this is a very intensive time. The meta will shake up in the way that I don't think there was a single period in this edition that has shaken up things
so much.
Yeah, exactly, so much.
No, definitely not with COVID and Brexit.
There is like 5 codexes, fucking new rules, new points, and on top of that, potential balance changes just from the data slate. That's hell of a shakeup.
Yeah, I think it can and probably will at some point lead to people's extreme frustration. Like think of, I don't know, the Custodes players who just got their codex. Not longer than 2 weeks later, they already got their points updates in chapter approved. And now a data slate is going to come out. I wonder if there's going to be anything for Custodes in the data slate. I hope not, because I really...
God, I hope they increase the points again. Dude, God, I hope they are.
I think the primary chapter costs
I guess we were wrong about that.
Yeah.
So,
that's exactly.
If you could return the PDF that you've downloaded, please. That would be so fucking good. That would be the cherry on top. That would be impeccable.
Chef's kiss.
Yes, that would be so fucking amazing if that happens. And I can actually see it happen after what happened at LVO.
Yeah. So do you have any, or maybe let's let's put this in order a little bit. So we want to talk about LVO. We're making our listeners wait a long time, but there's going to be timestamps in the description of the video, so we can jump there immediately. Still, I wanted to talk a little bit about chapter approved and how it changed certain things, points, but also the missions, the way we play the game. Joker, if I could have your hot take on the chapter approved, and let's break it into two parts. Your hot take on the missions and your hot take on the points. How do you feel about the release, let's call it, because to call it a book is an overstatement.
Well, the missions are interesting, let's say. I mean, I get bored playing the exact same missions over and over and over again, and I don't even play that many games. So a change in how these are played, that's fine for me. The names could have been shorter, but there you have it. However, I don't like the subfaction not mixing change that has been introduced, but mainly because I can't quite see what was the agenda behind it, and because usually when there's some change in the rules or what have you, it's kind of obvious where it comes from. So at which faction build it's aimed at mainly. But I can't see that here, and that's why I can't really get to terms with it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, there was one faction that definitely this could affect, but out of all the factions that are affected, that one is not included, which is Drukhari, which can still basically mix covens with cults and whatever the Archon is in cabals. So that is still a thing. So that hasn't been addressed with this change. But all the other armies are actually going to be in pain, and I think you, Thousand Sons players, can tell me something about it.
I've been crying myself to sleep a lot
Mm,
again. Yes,
Exactly.
yeah. I will miss my Cult of Mutation. I will tell you that right now. And I've been already very vocal about how much I dislike this change. And I'm gonna talk about it from a different perspective than just the current meta. Because in the current meta, I think this change is even more awful because it clearly leaves Drukhari and Tyranids alone, which are the most oppressive, I think, armies currently. But besides, let's say that this is besides the point, and just discuss something else. As a competitive player, one of the best feelings you can get is that when you are list building and just scrolling through your codex and just thinking about what could you change to actually address your problems or the current meta that you're operating in. One of the best things was finding that one tech or just something out there that could provide you the answer that you needed to fight the current lists. For me, that was exactly like finding that one spell from Cult of Mutation that gave me fighting chance against Coven Drukhari, like Grotesques, Talosai, or Necrons just by disabling their Scorpic Destroyers, or by Knights by disabling or slowing down rather the Magera, for example, or just choking them out in many like choke points on the ability tables. That was one of the best things that you can like get from actually list building. I think that was amazing. That was one of the best parts of the experience of list building. And now it is actually gone. I think it will dumb down the army creation process. Some people are arguing it's actually good because it's streamlined. And I don't necessarily disagree that streamlining the process and making it easier for newer players especially is a bad thing. But I do believe it's one of the roughest and most just heavy-handed ways that you could do that is the way they did it. I think like disabling some buffs or some army-wide rules as they were doing with super doctrines, for example, is like way better than actually have just completely banning that outright. I think leaving you the choice to give up some of your bonuses to be able to soup up and tech was such a nice like push and pull when list building in 9th edition. And now I feel it's just gone.
All
And I
right.
especially feel that like I've been playing Ultramarines and Raven Guard list in the past, for example, during the MP, Polish Team Championship.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done really well with them. And that's a inside faction soup that is completely illegal as well. They were losing super doctrines, but I felt like I didn't need them. That was an option I had, which is now gone. I think in most codexes now, you will find that one faction that completely dominates other. Like cults in Thousand Suns lists are not created equal. The spell from Cult of Mutation and the world traits to like buff your sorcerer is not equal to be able to teleport every single turn a unit anywhere on the board and redeploy them after the game begins. Like it's not very hard to see that. So in most of the codexes, I think you will quickly find one best option that everyone will play instead of looking for different ones.
Yeah.
And I hate this change because of that. More than like shaking up the current meta or anything, I think it dumbs down the army creation process in a way that is hurtful for the most like savvy of list builders and players.
Yeah, it takes away some tech from it, and
Exactly.
it always makes me wonder because I'm always on this optimistic side, and I try to, even when a change is introduced, I try to find the background, the reasoning for that change. And in this chapter approved, some of the changes, not only this one, but also like the one to mission scoring, for example. I mean, with the change of points and so on. I usually thought that when we, why change something that is working, I would say. And I haven't heard any single competitive player complain about the way you score points, and I haven't heard any single player complain about what we just spent 5 to 10 minutes talking about. So like mixing and matching from within your codex. So Joker, what do you think might have been the reasoning behind those changes? Because I'm even though as I said, I'm very optimistic and I'm trying very hard, I'm failing to see it.
Yeah, like I said, I can't see it either. Especially the stuff. I mean, I could imagine that the faction change was aimed at Drukhari and they got away with it anyway. So out of ideas there. But the mission scoring, I don't know if someone was complaining about it, but I think it might have been the matter of the mission secondaries, that you'd either take them because they were amazing, gave you a free 15 points, or in most cases you'd never look at them. So maybe there was some idea to, just shake things up a little, but can't really see it coming from any sort of feedback that it's wrong. So it's just like someone wanted to change something and they did.
Yeah, that's fair. Pumba, your take? At least about I know what your opinion is on the second bit, but what about the mission scoring?
Mission scoring. I think it's important to remember that the hyper-competitive players like me, for example, are not the default client and consumer of these. And I do think, like, I can actually find a reason for that change, which I believe would be that the missions were very samey. You really didn't feel like playing a different mission. You felt like playing another objective placement. But did the vital intelligence mission suggest anything about gathering vital intelligence, for example, right?
Yeah, I see what
they
you mean.
were not very thematic. And I think they did kind of, like, the mission secondaries were supposed to influence that, but they were not balanced themselves. For example, like taking priority target was just taking priority target. Some of these you just took and gained 15 points, as Joker said, not even thinking what you are trying to achieve, because they are so obviously good, obviously out to take, and some were just complete hot garbage. So it's, I think, like, they could fix the mission secondaries, or the other option was to just remove them completely and put them into the primary scoring, which just forces you outright to care about what mission you are playing. I don't think it's a completely bad design choice, especially if you're like, if you want to make the missions more thematic.
Yeah.
Now every mission you are playing, you need to look at the actual mission, not just what is the. Imagine you're at the tournament and you open the mission 33 from the previous chapter approved. What you are really thinking of is just checking the measurements for your objectives, which deployment it is, and then you're already familiarized enough with the mission pack that there's like two things you're checking. Does it have sticky objectives? Because there were two that had it. And then, is it a mission? Is the mission secondary viable or out to take? And that's pretty much it. Now, every mission you read again, you have to care about what actually you're trying to achieve here, right? There are very thematic things going on with the missions. I have not yet played many of them, like a couple, I think. And I don't really think they are super balanced, especially for some armies. I think some armies can achieve these primary or secondary objectives way easier than others, which is another problem that is like potentially could happen. Yes, but from the design standpoint, I can see a reason. Yes.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that viewpoint. Although entering the episode, I didn't have that in mind completely, but now that you've put it out so neatly, I must agree. Especially then
I have to say I even like it. No.
Yeah. Actually, like I'm looking at the mission that I played a couple of days ago. I think as the last League game on TTS, which was tear down their icons with that explosive that you first have to prime, and then if it's primed by your opponent, you have to defuse it. It was really funny and really cool and really fresh when I played it, because my opponent planted that turn 1, and then I was going out of my way to actually get rid of it, and I couldn't in the end, primarily because my now very cheap Wolfen, 5 Wolfen with hammers, failed to kill 5 witches that were very near to that explosive. But other than that, it was an awesome game, to be honest. So yeah, kudos to whoever came up with that idea, because it actually works, and that was really fun. A breath of fresh air.
Especially, I feel like it's incredibly thematic. Like, it's so cool.
It is.
It's like incredibly cool. I have not planted a single fucking explosive in my game because I didn't have the possibility to. I was playing against Drukhari, but hell, that was fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's the prime thing. I had a lot of fun playing that mission. So if all the other missions are like that, which I'm unable to tell yet because I haven't had the chance to actually. I mean, I read them, but I haven't had the chance to experience them on the table. If they are like that, then yeah, that's probably a change for the better. Right. So that was shortly about chapter approved. Now the topic that was supposed to be the main topic of the episode, which we don't probably not spend as much time as for the other things, but still, LVO, the tournament that has just finished on Sunday. 3 games of guys duking it out. Like over 700 players, I think. All factions had their representation there. Top players in America and the ITC in general, but we also saw players from the UK, from New Zealand. So yeah, a nice showing. How did you enjoy it, Joker? I'll start with you. Did you follow it, and how did you find it?
Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to follow it that much because I've had some family occasions over the weekend. So I'm bummed about that.
But you followed one way or another, right? If not by actively watching, then at least doing reading and so on. I know you did.
Yeah, I've been following the Polish Discord, and we've had the channel specifically created for LVO and
live commentary
what's going on.
by Polish players.
Live commentary and mocking, and yeah, that's the way I followed it.
All right, Pumba, your experience.
Well, I think the main problem with actively following the tournament for us is the time difference, because basically we can catch 1.5, maybe 2 games of it if you want to stay up late in a day, because the time difference is just so severe that you just if the game 3 is going on and you're still not asleep, damn, you've got some good stamina.
On Saturday, I think Joker and I, we were playing, which is interesting because we were playing a preparatory game for a tournament that is going to be 1,200 points, and we started at 11 p.m. and we finished at 4 a.m. We might as well have been.
What the holy Jesus, guys!
We might as well
We started 1:30. No,
really?
What the hell, dude?
Okay, all right.
How is this sane?
It's not, but daddies do that.
Nice.
We might as well have watched the one of the last games of the day, I guess, for the Americans. But anyway, You know,
So, yeah.
the quality. Yeah, coming back to the event. So the quality of stream, the quality of games, the quality of players. What can you tell us about it?
I'm not a huge like watching games of 40k guy. Neither battle reports or like live games do it for me, especially like I just cannot follow it super like closely. I definitely follow the results. I like was tracking some people that I know that I was cheering for, especially three of the French guys from Semi Croissants.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to them. One of them being Bizuthar, who made it into the top 8 with his Drukhari. Congratulations from me over there, because that's very impressive. So yeah, I was actively following Best Coast pairings for any updates and any like matchups. As I've become more entangled with ITC, especially in the UK, right? So I've been also very interested how Manny, Malik, David Gaylord, who also plays very well, will do, because I already know them. So it's fucking interesting how they do. So yeah, that was good fun. Like following such a huge tournament and how well they do in such a huge field has this kind of following your team in a championship vibes, which is like incredibly fun to do, I find. Talking about the event itself, I think it's its whole thing, right? The
It's a
scale.
holiday.
It's a holiday. It's a scale thing. It's an actual atmosphere thing. I feel like, especially like you could see it on the streams as well, and the whole atmosphere of the event is quite extraordinary, and it's very different to what we have here. I feel like there's nothing that compares in terms of the sheer size and the level of prestige that you might like encounter.
Also the level
as a
of professionalism, I think, right? The level of just, you know, how coverage is organized, how much effort goes into preparing all that, having all the cameras, the commentary, the stream, the moderation of the chat even, and so on and so on. So quite a lot of effort goes into that. And I think, you know, whatever the outcome, I think the outcome was good. And I think, you know, people from Frontline Gaming and the casters, they do deserve a shout out for and like kudos for, you know, delivering it without any, at least in my eyes, major fuck ups.
The BCP didn't broke.
Yeah, that's incredible, especially that. And again, thank you to BCP who decided to make the rosters and everything available for free without subscription. I think that was also amazing because it allowed even more insight into the event. But still, even despite so many people went into it to see the lists, etc., etc., it didn't break. Which, wow, that's progress.
That's exactly that's something new for for LVO.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so you said you were rooting for for some guys, that, you know, the French guys, the UK guys. I was looking for rooting for Jamie Paris naturally because he's the Space Wars guy. So I enjoy, you know, watching him, listening to him, and following his ideas. And then Alex McDougall because he was playing Tyranids the way Tyranids should be played in my eyes. Joker, did you have any favorites entering the event?
No, sorry to disappoint again.
Oh, dude.
Like I said, I didn't really follow the event, so I don't even know. I don't really know that many of the players, so didn't really have any personal favorites.
So did you have any personal favorites maybe in terms of factions? Like, did you have any expectations as to who might win the LVO, knowing, you know, what the armies can do beforehand?
Yeah, it was, well, I probably wouldn't have bet my money on Admech winning the event. But I guess it's not the wand, but the magician that might make a difference.
Would you put your money on Admech if you know that Sigler went with Admech?
Yeah, probably. that would have changed it.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
He's
so
the GOAT. Remember that.
yeah, so like I said,
He's the GOAT, dude. That's what the Reddit said.
it's the driver, not the.
He's the GOAT.
He almost invented
Like, he is
the game.
incredibly impressive. Like, his results that he is pulling are insane. I'm gonna be fucking honest. Like, I would love to play the guy. He seems incredibly competent.
Yes, although it must be said that I think those two last games, or at least the one before the final, was really close. Like really, really close. It was just a matter of I think 2 invulnerable saves that needed to be made. And if they didn't go his way, it would be the other way around. The other guy would be going to the final.
Yes. And I've heard some stuff about the final. Like, I have not watched the final. It was in the middle of the night in here. But I've heard some stuff about heroic intervention and some upsets about heroic intervention and stake backs. By the way, my opinion about that: if 2 players agree for a take back, it's fine. They have agreed to it as a gentleman's agreement game. You leave it there. Like,
Yeah, it's nobody else's business.
Yeah, basically, yes. Like, if both players are fine with it and there is no pressure about the situation, I think whatever the gentleman's agreement is should stand. And I say it as a judge, by the way, as well. So yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, the system is what it is. What it is for the actual system. Like, we know that the clutch wins from the win draw lose are actually draws in our systems, but that's a completely different topic to talk about. And the list building and the way you play the game completely changes around that. So I don't think it's very relevant to say like he won by a single point. So I guess it was a draw. Because it really does not translate that well. But yeah, it was interesting. I think some Castores are interesting as an army currently for us, because I don't think it seems like they are the new Grey Knights. I'm gonna be honest. Like, there's some talk they are not that amazing in our community, and suddenly in Windroller systems, they pull off incredible results. Their first tournament, their first huge tournament, also.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because the moment Custodes leaks, point leaks, or whatever codex leaks appeared, some people were ecstatic about it, but I think Polish pro players almost immediately dismissed it as, you know, not really that much worth attention. I don't even know what the reason for that was, but that was the vibe that I was getting, in both in Discord and like forums and so on. And suddenly, you know, this army comes to LVO. Bear in mind, it's still with the pre-chapter approved points, and well, everything was pre-chapter approved in that tournament, but still. And they pull some amazing results. I mean, the players who were, you know, the wizards, as to use Joker's metaphor, I think those were like quite fresh guys, right? Who never before made it to top 8 or something like that. So, not taking anything away from them, again, this must be credit also to the army's strength, I guess.
I think so, yes. By the way, I will correct that. I think the most of the, like, many of the top players were actually not just talking much about the codex. Like, I wasn't following back then because I was pretty much dying, suffering from COVID when the codex came out. And many of the top players were just not actually able to follow the leaks and meta. But the general vibes of the Custodes like discussion was that no, they are not very good, because some nerfs appeared, like many of the best stratagems have been tweaked to be worse. Some were tricked to be better, but remained pretty much the same. And some of the biggest problems we felt like were not addressed in the codex. And the OPSEC was removed from many models, which is a huge hit, to be honest, especially in the current state of the game. But like, I'm warming up to Custodes being good. I don't think they are Drukhari good. I don't think they are an S-tier army for now. Like, I might be surprised. So everything like subject to change, of course, as often is. But like, they seem solid. They probably have play in teams as the. But one of the things I think that helped them a lot during this event is some trickiness, like the trick nature of some of the things that the Codex can pull off with their katas, their relics, and their stratagems. I think they can really catch you off guard when you're not very familiarized with the things they can pull off, which impacts the game greatly.
Yeah, and they were, one of the, if not the freshest army on the table out there. So question is whether it was, again, the skill of the players, the strength of the army, or just the surprise factor this time.
I think it's a mix.
Probably.
It's a mix. Like, you cannot just nobody can just take an army and win with it. It isn't that simple.
Sure.
The skill of the pilot definitely matters in this game most of the time, unless you get wiped in the first turn by like 12 high guard. But
yeah,
most of the time the skill will matter. And there's definitely like the factor of the player that's playing the list comes into play there. But yeah, I think the Codex is interesting.
Okay, so Custodes didn't come out alone. They came in a box against Genestealer cults, which we covered in our last episode with Danny. When we were discussing it, Danny made it very clear that it's a very powerful book. I think he was so convincing that Joker was on the verge of buying the half of the box of Genestealer cults. And yet, the best GSC player in LVO came in, 67th, I think, or something close to that. So where is GSC taking into LVO into account? Is it, again, the complexity of the army that doesn't make it arrive in top 8 immediately, or is the Codex just not as powerful? Joker, Pumba, any of you can take it.
I'd say it's the complexity.
I agree. Yes.
And the sheer fact that you could easily soup some Hiveguard friends might have been just too appealing to some of the players. I think that that list you mentioned, 67th, was a pure Genestealer list, or did that? Okay.
That was pure, yeah. Because I remember I was asking about that in Discord, and I wanted to find out how the clean faction did, because I know that it's very common to bring a fraction of your points as Genestealer cults, to use blips sort of defensively. That's what the hive mind players tend to do. However, to me, what's more interesting is whether this codex can be a standalone codex and not just be considered an addition to Tyranids or an addition to Hiveguard. So in that, we see 67th place. Congrats to that guy. Out of 700 people, definitely, or 750 people, definitely a good result. But I wish it was higher.
I think it comes down to complexity. The Codex still suffers from one of its greatest flaws that it already had previously. It doesn't survive well on the objectives. In a game where surviving on objectives is how you gain most of your points. It's a big drawback to have on you. And playing around that will take time and a lot of skill. I think significantly more skill than playing LS like Custodes, who are very durable comparatively. And Danny is playing the shit out of this codex. And I mean hell out of this codex.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah, we know.
played 60 goddamn games of it, from what I heard, and he's pulling good results already, and like tweaking his list with every single game. So I think there's definitely like a steep learning curve to it. I think the Codex is not a sudden powerhouse. I think it has like kind of a Sisters of Battle vibe. And as you've seen, for example, during LVO, Sisters struggled as well. They did not make the top 8, and they generally, like, I don't know their best scoring player, but I don't think they've done incredibly well as a faction as a whole. And that is one of the problems of your win-draw-lose systems compared to our systems, and the amount of terrain you put on your tables. Because I would consider Sisters to be very good, like incredibly good. Top 8 material definitely in the 20-0 team tournament setting, but I don't think they are, as we've seen, they have not done very well in the LVO setting. So I think it's a very similar case of squishy armies that don't survive on the objectives particularly well, but have a great punch and a great deal of flexibility to them and like counterplay. I think it is a learning curve, but I'm just not sure they will ever be able to make it to like top level armies in that system. As basically, I would very much compare them to Sisters in this regard.
So I cannot, we cannot conclude this episode without me asking about your opinion on Mane's list and the 180 racks. Is this
171?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, to be precise, 171.
I know. I have counted them myself.
So again, did you manage to experience that in Nottingham or
exactly?
All right.
I needed to count his no prisoners that the opponent has scored multiple times during the tournament. So I have counted many racks there. Many racks.
So I'm hoping that sooner or later, and rather sooner, we will have Manny on one of our episodes. Actually, that's lined up. Let's see if the planets align correctly for that to happen. But before that happens, what do you guys think of that list? Is it just a crazy skew list that so far? Well, at LVO, it finally met its doom, but going into LVO, it was sort of undefeated, and nobody had an idea how to tackle it. Or is it just a crazy idea that shouldn't even be allowed to happen? Joker, what do you think?
Well, it goes well into the Stampede, so if you're countering one of the top meta armies, then I think you're doing the job right.
Fair. Pumba?
It's a skew list. It's like it's what Manny does most often during the tournaments he has. Exactly. He makes skew lists, like incredible skew lists. You've seen it with the Gibraltar Skitari Horde. You've seen it with billion buggies that he has deployed, and now he's done with the racks. So it really is nothing new. It's just a different skin on the same skew list. And I think it's a smart.
Forgot about 17 Hive Guard.
Of course. Somewhere in between.
I think. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a smart thing to do. If you want to win some tournaments, as he does, consistently at that. He was number one before attending LVO, before the season ended. And he has proven that just constantly changing up into a more obnoxious skill list that that the meta has not necessarily figured an answer to, especially you don't even give them the chance to figure it out because you always switch your skill list. It clearly works. It also works very well because people, even though he has encountered a list that could definitely beat him many times both in Nottingham and during LVO. Only one guy managed to do that, and that was the one of the most insane counters you could probably imagine with the Devil Guns. But he has beaten many players with lists capable of beating 171 ranks, but they were just not prepared to do that. They were just not.
They didn't have enough reps, and you cannot have reps against something like that because who plays that?
Precisely. Like if you're not ready for the horde game, and what you're supposed to do, and what you're supposed to watch out for, then you can make a mistake. And making a mistake against such a list oftentimes means you're doomed. I've seen this list beat like the most insane orcs lists with like billion strength 5 shots everywhere, just because they were given like charges first turn. And if you allow the rack horde to charge you first turn and basically lock you in your deployment zone, then the game's over. It's straight up over. It's not recoverable. So it's very punishing. It does what it's supposed to. Like, I don't hate it. I'm a competitive player. I think this level of dedication to make such a list for every single tournament is fine. It's kind of a key to the meta and to the ITC events.
Yeah, it's a skill in itself, definitely. I only, shed a tear for David from Money team because probably he has blisters on his fingers now from assembling them all.
Yes, no. I think he has only assembled about 50 of them, because many of the racks were actually pre-assembled and given to Money by Malik. Because obviously Malik had like 60 pre-assembled, not unpainted racks lying around, and they were given back to him in box state by Money during Nottingham. So yeah, David has painted all of these in a single day, basically, from what I've heard, but he has not assembled 171, but only like a 50 or 60.
Yeah, but still, the motherfucking unsung hero of the of the day.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here and I can't be asked to put together 5 of those.
Yeah, and I, I'm actually discovering Nasdaq yellow is yellow. So kudos to David for being able to pull that off. Right. I still want to ask a question about LVO because I think we didn't do it justice yet. What do you think the state of particular factions is? And it's a huge question, so I'm going to narrow it down to, I think, the most broadly commented in the Polish Discord, so the state of the Space Marines. I think, especially if you listen to American podcasts and some casters, many people claim that Space Marines are strong, that the nerfs were well deserved. So the Chaplain was underpriced, the Relic Contemptor was underpriced, the Redemptor probably, even Gunhammer wrote that this was an expected change and a deserved change. After LVO, it seems that suddenly there are some cracks on the surface and people are starting to see that maybe perhaps Space Marines aren't all that powerful. Again, Pumba, what's your take? Because Space Marines are one of your factions, so how do you feel about them?
You are baiting me at this point.
Yes.
Let's be honest. This is a low quality bait, and I will take it.
Obviously.
Gladly. Because I have said that Space Marines bad already in this very podcast many times. And I will now just make my round around the stadium in triumph.
Yep.
Because I was pretty much spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have proven themselves to be subpar to pretty much all of the factions, especially 9th edition factions. But this is basically nothing new to us. Like, as we've discussed with Typhus when we made our end of the year tier list, we have dropped playing Space Marines. At this point, it's like 9 or 10 months of just ignoring them and constantly beating them, with not very much trouble at that. So like, I didn't need a wake up call, and like I didn't need LVO to tell me that Space Marines are suboptimal and hugely overpriced, because I knew that already as an SM player. But yeah, I hope they obviously got nerfed in the chapter approved, because that's what they do. They get nerfed every single update.
Yep.
And I'm like, I won't say I'm happy about it, but I think I've already accepted their fate. And at this point, I'm just waiting for the new codex, baby, because I know it's coming.
Yeah, they said that it's going to drop soon, which I'm gonna laugh if it drops before Chaos.
It's gonna happen, as I hope it's before Chaos. I just hope it's before Chaos, because the amount of salt on 40k internet is gonna be enough to sustain like power plants.
Yep, basically.
I'm all about it.
It's going to be like rubbing salt on an open wound, really, if that happens, and it probably does happen. So it's gonna come out probably before Chaos, probably before Imperial Guard as well.
We don't know the date. I think it's coming. I think we've all seen some leaks, not very confirmed leaks or anything, not GW leaks or like previous or teasers, but I do think it's coming. I'm just not very sure like what to expect from it.
So yeah, no point in speculating, but coming back to the original question, let's say, so faction focus, and if I could have literally one sentence from each of you on each of the factions that I'm going to throw at you, and where they are right now, so we can sum up the LVO topic, and then I'm going to have one last question. So Joker, I'll start with you, and I'll throw in Grey Knights. Where are they? What do you think about them? One top 2 sentences.
I think they were on the rise, and now they're slowly falling.
Agreed.
Especially with
agreed.
Especially with that faction change where they lose a Grandmaster Dread Knight, it's going to be downhill.
Pumba?
Garbage, F tier, unplayable. By the way, if you want, I think a very valid point would be actually going back to our tier list, and most of the things we've said I think held up during LVO, which is fucking insane, by the way. Like, we were talking about Polish meta, and most of the things we said is like correctly predicting LVO meta.
Yeah, we are ahead of the meta.
Considering both LVO performance and the current changes, Grey Knight's actually bad. Only for Nemesis Dread Knights, point increases on the most important units. I think they're in a rough spot and on the downwards trend.
Yep, and was completely expected. As our dear audience, you can go, and if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen. It's a quality episode. It has the most views, which only proves that the internet hive mind loves tier lists, and we definitely are going to do a ton of them again.
Just do a list. Just do a list.
Yeah, simply.
Just do a list.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on. So we have the Grey Knights. Let's go with Orcs. Joker.
I think it's a similar case, because I'm seeing less and less of them, and again, that's a faction. Actually, I'm not sure. Does that sub-faction ban hurt them that bad, or was it just freebooters all the way?
I think it's like it's a mixed bag. Like, I've seen a lot of goths and freebooters lists when browsing LVO lists, which I don't understand at all. But maybe that actually might improve them, because nobody will just put random Gov detachments into their freebooters lists, which might improve them. But they are in a rough spot because of the points changes as well. The buggies are going up, and overall the faction strength is already questionable because of the new releases coming up.
It's going to be interesting whether the orc players turn to, beasts and beast snagger boys, more kill rigs on the tables and so on. I think we saw some during LVO. I think the list that made it to the top 8, I think there was one, and it had some beast snagger boys or some beasts at least. So it's going to be interesting whether it shifts towards that. It would be a welcome change, at least for me, but we'll see. Admech. Joker.
Again, same thing. Sub-faction change is going to hurt them because obviously the most played lists were Lucius plus Mars. So that's not good. But other than that, I think they've been untouched in the chapter approved because they've already been hit by the balanced data slate, and the points were also released back then. But yeah, it's not looking great.
I think they're one of the most difficult factions to play right now. What's notable is that the Mars veteran cohort that Sigler was playing has not suffered at all by the chapter approved change. I do think they are in a very similar spot that they were, but you need to pivot towards that army of around more than anything else, and it's gonna be difficult. It's not an easy way list to play at all. I think it's very you need to master it. I really do think that, and they are very much dependent. The way you build your list is super dependent upon both the system and the terrain pack you're playing more than any other faction.
Is that the GSC level of complexity?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Maybe. I'm not sure, honestly. But it's a hard faction, yes. Okay. I wouldn't be able to answer that straight up.
Okay, fair enough. We'll let maybe our viewers let us know what they think, which we strongly encourage in the comment section. Okay, Necrons. Joker.
I find it disappointing that they didn't do really well in at the LVO. They've had quite a good buff in the balanced data slate, and now they've got a good point reductions on the units that were actually quite viable anyway. So I think for them things are looking up.
Pumba.
They haven't suffered from the mixed dynasty soup. They are already playing on basically one detachment or one custom dynasty rather than detachment. I'm surprised that they keep disappointing in the win-roll systems time and time again, especially after buffs. I think they are solid. Solid is the things I would describe them. Not busted at all, definitely solid. I think they would struggle to pull off amazing results though. But I would consider them to be a 5-1 LVO faction, for example.
Yeah, they do seem like a hard counter to certain things. Space Marines definitely, because I witnessed that on the TTS table, so to say. But I also I played Gito a number of times in the last 2 weeks, and one, he is an amazing player, but two, God, he has crazy ideas for builds. I mean, he did find what he calls, and I believe he's right in that, counter to like Hiveguard, for example, with the plane dropping, teleporting Scorpec in your backlines and charging you, shooting you, and so on and so on. With the right positioning and so on, it can wreak havoc in the Tyranid deployment. So I think, like, I experienced their rules and the permanent OPSEC and so on, and I just think that this army, if it had the strength to beat through high toughness targets, it would be S tier. Really, because the rules are in general really good, It's just that they don't have the power to break through a certain ceiling, and that ceiling is toughness 7, toughness 8 with damage reduction. That is a hard
Yes,
counter to
they
Necron.
do struggle with that, and I think they are still pricey army, which is a problem in the current edition.
Well,
They
seeing what Gito is able to table, at least to put on the table against me, for example, in my Space Marines, I still think they are in a good place price-wise.
No, I do believe so, but you wouldn't call them cheap. They are not JSC, they are not Sisters, they are not Orcs, for example, right? These are the armies, obviously Drukhari. They are not a cheap army, especially that if you're taking characters. I think the characters are the one thing that was not addressed at all during any of the balance changes that they've done to Necrons, and they are still incredibly overpriced for what they do. It's a very similar case with Space Marines, I think. But yes, if you compare them to Space Marines, it's still rough. But then you're comparing them to the most overpriced factions, I think. I feel like so.
Yeah,
this is where the comparison struggles a bit. But
yeah, and I know we were supposed to do only 1 or 2 sentences about the faction, but I just cannot stop praising Necrons for one last thing, and that is the amount to field pretty much an entire army that is T5 and still, having OPSEC and so on. I wasn't able to bite through that with my Space Marines. I'm not a very skilled player, but still I managed to win some games. But against Necrons, it's my fucking nemesis. I just don't see that happening in the near future. So, but that's me, and those are Gito's very specific builds again. Anyway, moving on. So to maybe cut it short a little bit, I'll go with faction chaos, excluding like Thousand Suns and Death Guard. So demons and CSM. Joker, what do you think?
They just need a new book.
That's the best summary, probably.
that's so fucking true, though.
Yeah.
What more is there to say, really? Maybe after the Space Marines 2.0. We're hoping. We're hoping. Maybe it will happen.
Yeah,
maybe not,
only
though.
maybe.
But maybe it will.
But maybe not. Right. Drukhari. Joker, you play that army. Where are they now?
They're still good. They're still very strong, and I think there's no denying that. We'll see. I mean, again, just like Adamek, not fully like Adamek. The points changes. They've already had them before, so chapter approach is not changing much for them, and they are somehow, in a way, an exception to the subfaction mixing ban. So, well, it's not going to change much for them. You're probably not going to see Trueborn around so much, or the Dark Technomancer's Kronos, although those were popular in the West, and LVO didn't have that many of them, as far as I know. So, yeah, get ready for some Artists of the Flesh, 15 Grotesques, 4 Talos, maybe more, what have you.
All right, Pumba.
It's been a year, guys. Can we stop talking about Drukhari being fucking?
Sure.
It's been a year. It's been a rough year.
Yeah.
What I will instead of talking how good they are, because they did not get hit, they are still fucking incredible. They did the best at LVO as a faction, and they will continue to dominate. Is I think the interesting conversation to have is, will the next balance data state address them finally?
Yeah.
Will it happen?
That's something that we're all wondering about. But you're right. Let's just move on. By now, everyone has played them. Everyone has got tabled by them.
It's been a half year.
Yeah, it's been a half year, exactly. So moving on, a more interesting faction, I guess, Knights. Let's talk about both Knights, because I think we can put them in one basket. So Pumba, I'll start with you.
I have no idea how well they did at LVO.
Neither do I.
I don't they were never super. As they struggle against Crusher Stampede badly, which pretty much disqualifies them from going top 8, I think, because there were a lot of Crusher Stampedes at this event, and if you want to win every single one of your games, you basically cannot run into a Crusher Stampede, which will not happen. So that's a big fucking downside of the army, like incredibly big if you consider the systems that you're supposed to play. Overall, I think they're great, but they do have bad matchups. I wouldn't say they've changed much from our estimations and things that we've said about them during our tier list making.
Yeah, I'm looking at that interesting chart that someone posted on the Polish Discord of like a summary of, the count of armies at LVO and then in what placings they took.
Yeah.
So the one where Space Marines are shooting through the roof basically, with like rainbowy colors and so on. So Knights, there were I think fewer than 40 players sporting Knights of both kinds, and when you look at the placings between the first place and 100th, there is just like a fraction of a percent. So they didn't really do that well. Joker, your take on Knights both kinds?
Yeah, fully agreed. I mean, it's hard to judge, and they don't seem to be too popular in the West. And yeah, if they don't do well against the top army that's also very popular, then what is there more to say?
They are not a singles army.
Yeah, they are not a singles
army. They are a great team tournament army, but they are just not the singles army. And I get why people don't bring them more often.
All right. Next one, collectively, Eldari. Joker. So Harlequins and Asuryani.
I think there's no point discussing that now.
I think we skip that. I think we are ready for the codex.
Yeah, everyone is. Or are we?
Yeah, no one is.
Well, I'm super ready, as I said. I have a whole shelf.
So we've covered Custodes, so I'm not going to go there. I think we know NIDs are top tier, very numerous at LVO, so I'm not going to go into that. Tau, again, waiting for a new book. Sisters, underplayed at LVO, to say the least, I think.
I think we've discussed, I've accidentally discussed their weaknesses. I also add to that I think their matchup into the Crusher Stampede can be tricky with the no-loss shooting and their survivability potentially. So yeah, that adds to the problem.
Yeah, we've discussed GSC, so I'm not going to go there. Imperial Guard, I don't really think there is a point in touching Imperial Guard.
Imperial what?
Exactly. Yeah, the two factions that I on purpose left for the last 1,000 Suns.
I think they've proven themselves to do all right. I think they've had two guys that went over 5 wins. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. Yeah. And they did not have they did not exactly. I did not have a huge representation. As I've said when I discussed my DMG performance, I think they still struggle against Thick City, the Coven list. I think they will still struggle against Crusher Stampede, but they do have play. I would be very surprised to find them in the top 3 of any tournament, but they are very solid. You can achieve a lot, and depending of what your goal is, I think you can take them to a tournament and do very well with them.
Okay, Joker.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, it's a bit of a tricky army, and yeah, I guess they just didn't have that much of a representation. I think in the West they might be a bit more valid than they will be around here, where Chaos Knights are a bit more prevalent.
Yeah, I will also add that the most popular build, that I've come across when browsing lists is the Cult of Duplicity and Cult of Time mix, which now is going away. completely. And I think what's left on the table is either pure Cult of Time or pure Cult of Mutation of Duplicity. Sorry, sorry. I was, instead of just replace Mutation of Duplicity, the teleportation one. And I think from two of these, I would generally choose Duplicity to be superior with their mobility, which is a nerf. Yeah, which is a nerf, by the way. It's obviously a nerf, but yeah.
All right, guys, and the last faction that I purposely left to the end, because from that I want to segue to something else. But I left Death Guard for the very end, and I want you to comment on Death Guard, but through the lens of Asarniel coming or placing 9th at DMG with his Horde Death Guard army. What do you think of Death Guard, and is the playstyle of Asarniel bringing a lot of Foxwalkers and generally a Horde to a meta that's dominated by Stampede and Rigs? Is this, you know, the plot twist that we should be taking into consideration right now, that maybe Hordes are in general an answer to the meta? First, what do you think about Death Guard? And two, should it be played as a Horde? Pumba.
Well, I think we don't need to worry about that anymore because this was brutally murdered by GW in the recent chapter approved. So this discussion is purely academical at this point, which is a big fucking shame because I think the list, by the way, able to for anyone to see the Tourney Keeper. If you browse the previous tournament that happened in Tourney Keeper, you can find the DMG, and all of the lists from the tournaments are in there.
Mm-hmm.
And Asarniel brought the Death Guard, Poxwalker, Terminus Est Horde with many Terminators. And I think he has matched up against at least 2, maybe even 3 the Rukari lists, like Coven lists.
Yeah,
and he has done well against them, especially.
He played 3 of them.
Fucking hell. Yeah, but he has done very well against at least one of them. He has drawn against Typhus's one, and I think he lost one to 2 points.
Crazy.
With Crazy, exactly. So I think that was one of the most interesting lists of the tournament, and especially interesting considering the team aspect, like the tournament scene, the team tournament scene. And it's kind of a similar thing to like bringing 171 racks, right? It has a similar vibe, but instead of racks you have Poxwalkers, and in the second way you have a lot of Terminators that can actually pull good punches.
And you don't know what to focus on. Mm-hmm.
That is true. Like I've really liked the list on the table. I think it had legs. I think it had good ideas behind it. And I'm just so sad it was just completely murder for no reason. I mean, the reason is 7 months printing cycle. That's the reason, let's be honest.
Oh, GW, yes.
But that's like a whole other topic of discussing should the rules updates and points be done in the print cycle of 7 months, pretty much. So that's just a shame. I'm gonna be honest. Like, you bring attention to this, but that list was so interesting. I thought it was the most clever list, the most unexpected list. Nobody expected it to do so well, but it did.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, which was amazing to see. I think it was a great thing. I think Asarniel proved to be a great general, a list builder, and to have the answer to the meta basically, which is very valuable.
Yeah, the out of the box thinking.
And it's just so sad to see it just so brutally murdered by the point increases for no good reason.
Absolutely unnecessary. Joker, so coming back tonight, and I'll make it the last question of the day. Manny with 171 racks, Asarniel with 100 Poxwalkers and a throng of Terminators. Tyranids potentially with a swarm of little bugs with OPSEC and so on. Are hordes the next hot shit?
They could be. We'll have to see.
Right.
It's
Pumba?
impossible to say. Because as I've said to you previously, I think we are in the greatest turmoil of this edition. And
Yeah.
what comes out of it and into the next season, because that's officially what we are now, seasons, I think it's completely unknown. Completely unknown.
Yeah. And if
Like-
you take into consideration all the local metas that people have and so on, and things that people bring to events, unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it's a cliche, but it's true. Time will tell.
It is honestly, it will. I think hordes were a very interesting option in the previous meta, the one that we just had, but now it's like a carte blanche, completely.
Agreed. Okay, guys, we've covered all the factions. I think we've covered all the topics that we potentially could, and it turned out to be quite a lengthy episode. But I hope our audience managed to, found it interesting. That's first, and two, managed to, withstand our blabbering till the very end. With that, I'll conclude the episode. I thank you very much for your participation, for joining, and for being here with us. And for your awesome insights as usual. To our audience, guys, if you've managed to stay here for so long and listen to us for so long, please remember to, if you haven't already, to subscribe, to like, to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, because we're in all the social media. We're on all podcasting platforms as well. So if you remember to leave us a positive rating, please do, because this helps us to grow and reach even bigger audiences. And we have some crazy ideas in our heads for future episodes. Hopefully, we will turn to streaming instead of podcasting very soon, so you will be able to see our ugly mugs as well as we talk. So stay tuned and watch this space, because a lot of interesting stuff is going to happen with Contact Lost podcast. So thanks for sticking with us, and we're in for a crazy ride. So stay with us. Thank you, everyone, and until next time. Bye, guys.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.